Okay, and we are back here at the Surfside Night Kolel at shul.com, and we are learning about the city of LUZ. What is that? It's a city brought down in the Torah, but it's a very interesting city. It's a city that nobody died in it. Nobody died. If a person lived in this city, he lived forever, and whenever somebody wanted to die, he would have to leave the city. They'd put him at the outskirts of the wall, and he would die while he left. So we're gonna look into this city. There's a lot to talk about the city. Let's see what Otzar Pelaot HaTorah talks about it. Divrei Pele al Ha'id LUZ. Unbelievable things about this city LUZ. B'Masechet Sota, it's brought down in Daf Mem Vav Amud Bet. Hevia Gemara sheyesh ir sheshma LUZ. The Gemara says that there's a city called LUZ. She'en reshut lemalach hamavet likanes ba. The Satan, the malach hamavet, he's not allowed to go into the city. Why not? Ve'en bnei adam metim ba, and people don't die in it. Ubizman she'askenim sheba da'atam katza bechayehem. When old people, or anyone for that matter, just doesn't want to live anymore, yotzim lachutz la'ir ve'hem metim. They just go right outside the city and boom, they die. It's unbelievable interesting. Let's take a look. He has some notes on it. Let's take a look. Mem Zayin. Ha'acharonim danu lama ein isur shel me'abed atzmo lada'at b'yisat ha'skenim chutz la'choma. Can a person commit suicide like that? This is a big question. Let's say an old man doesn't want to live anymore. Can he technically leave a city knowing that once he leaves those areas, he's going to die? It's literally committing suicide. I thought we don't allow that type of behavior. And because a person wasn't born in order to have life in the world, this was all a miracle from the Malach HaMavet. And living in that city was not normal. It was above the normal standard. Everyone knew that we're talking about this city LUZ, that anyone who lived in the city never died. And the only way that a person could die is when you leave the city. So the question is, there were Jewish people living there. Can they leave that city to die? LUZ. Lamed Vav Zayin. LUZ.
In Israel?
So it's in Israel, yes. Yeah. No, not Lod. No, those people die in Lod. No, it's talking about LUZ. Okay, let's take a look. And it's not. Why? Because that was a miracle city. So it wasn't considered in any way that is normal. It was a not normal thing that you live in that place. Ve'od katvu sheyitzatan mechutz lahoma, that leaving the city harehu derech garma v'siduk davar hamonea mita tiv'it. That really, when he leaves that, he's really going back to living a normal life. Living in the city of LUZ was a magical city.
Right.
But the question is, why was this city zoche to such a thing like this? It's a very good question. We're going to find out soon.
Do we know where it is today?
So we're going to find out. Let's wait. And it's not considered suicide if someone lived in the city and decided to want to leave. Obviously, it mentions that there were only Zkenim that wanted to do it. Ayen b'shut hemdat tzvi brings down, this was a question of a shoot, meaning they had to ask the rabbi, how does this work that they could do that? Okay, and Siman Nudal b'shut tzitz Eliezer, he also brings it down. Unbelievable. Let's take a look about the city. Ve'ez zchut hayta la'ir LUZ shebe'avura lo nitna reshut lemashchit level. Why was it fortunate for this special characteristic of people not dying in the city? We have to assume another thing. If they didn't die, they probably never got sick either. We can assume from that, if there's no Malach HaMavet, that they also were always healthy there. Ita b'sefarim, it's brought down in the books. Shebe'ir LUZ dibru rak emet. What was their trick? They only spoke the truth. There was no lying or fabrication in the city. Unbelievable. You think so? It's very difficult. They probably didn't talk a lot. There's probably no newspapers.
Condition to live in
No, they took upon themselves that. It must have been, I don't know how big this city was, but it must have been a small city that they were able to get this down pat. But let's take a look. Malach HaMavet said, listen, if you guys are only truthful amongst yourselves, I can't come in here. It's interesting to note that when people have shalom, the Malach HaMavet cannot infiltrate, even if they're doing sins. When people do sins, but they're with shalom, Hashem says, okay, listen, if you're peaceful amongst yourselves, I'm not going to interrupt that relationship. The moment that there's mahloket, boom, it comes down. Ve'od katvu, it also says shehamayan haoveh tachat etz ha'chaim, that the spring that goes under the etz ha'chaim, the etz ha'chaim and etz hadat, mamshich derech ha'ir LUZ, it passes through the city of LUZ. What's interesting about this, Lachen en metim sham, because everyone who lived there used to drink their water was their tap water was from the Etz HaHayim stream. Very interesting. Whoever drinks from this water, even if they chopped the person's body up into pieces, if he drank from that one time, they kill him, they chop him up, he would not die. His soul would still stay in the body. They couldn't kill him because of the magical waters. Let's say the guy fell off of a building over there in the city of LUZ. I don't know, he got burnt. He went somehow, he would still survive. No, the body, the physical would not deteriorate and would not die. Meaning, the guy would still be talking with his head chopped off. He wouldn't die. It's unbelievable, because you have to remember this Etz HaHayim, this Ma'ayan that was going through the spring, would get its wellspring from Kisei HaKavod. Remember, there is the spiritual and then there's the metaphysical on earth. There's Gan Eden of a Gan Eden outside of earth, and then there's also Gan Eden on earth. So there's two different parts. So when we say Etz HaHayim, Etz HaDat, there's two parts. There's in the spiritual part, and there's also in the actual place on earth that has those things in it. Be'et Yosef al En Yaakov. En Yaakov is a book on the Agadot and the Gemara. In Masechet Sotah, it says, Hatipale al Mahut Luz. He goes, it was unbelievable, this city of Luz. She'im nimtza ken ba'olam makom she'ena malach hamavet sholet bo. That if there's a place in the world that there's no malach hamavet, ech lo kafsu kol ha'olam nashevet ba'eretz hahi. Very good question. If nobody died, why didn't everybody go live there? Why didn't everybody go there? Very good question. Meaning, if I told you there was a city where no one got sick, no one died, the population would be billions of people in that one city. And we don't know of any place today where there's a city that people don't die in. So we don't know where it is. He explained, we must have to say, it must be a place amongst the mountains. So it probably exists, but it's in the hills or mountains in a very difficult place in order to identify. And there must be rivers and places around it. Now remember, it could have been a village. It could have been a village, and this village had on a very small area. It wasn't a big area. And the only way to go through to the city must have been through a cave, where the entrance to go in and out of the city, it was through mountains, rivers, and valleys, and through a cave you would go into a new city. Yeah. So Asher hi b'makom miyuchad ne'elam v'nisar me'en kol. That's why it's hidden. Lo noda ki im liyoshvei ha'ir. The only people that knew about it were the people that were living there. That's why no one really knew where to find it. They knew about the city, but no one really knew the location. And God wanted it this way. Just as a side note on caves, I want to show you something. Let me pull it up. It's unbelievable, because if I told you this fact, you would never have known it. The largest cave in the world, where is it found? Anyone know where the largest cave in the world is? Okay, so the largest cave in the world, I'm going to open it up right here for the camera. It's called the Son Dung Cave. Take a look at that. All right, I'll show you some of the picture. Son Dung Cave. All right, this cave is located in Vietnam. It's near the border of Laos, and it's the largest cave in the world. You know when it was discovered? The first time it was seen was in 1995. Wait, I'm not done. You're gonna love this. The guy who found it went out and tried to go back into the cave, and he couldn't find it. Because if you go to Vietnam, there's so much rain, so much rainforest and trees, very hard. So he lost it, and he had to go back with a bunch of archaeologists and like different expeditions to find out where this place was. He found it again in 2009. Wait, it's unbelievable. If I want you to go online and check up this San Dung Cave in Vietnam. I'm not kidding. It looks like you go back 5,000 years. It looks like a dinosaur is going to pop out from Jurassic Park. There's expeditions to go there. It happens to be, it's on my list of places that I'm going to travel. It's like a trip. You have to go. They take you on for like a week, and you go. They give you food. You travel with them. You got to go under. I intend Be'ezrat Hashem B'li Neder to go see it because it's just unbelievable. They say people who go there, there's clouds within the cave. You go in the cave, and there's like these little openings that open up. That there's little openings in the ceiling where sunlight comes in. Trees grow. You have to see it. When you see the clouds within the cave, you'll be blown away. Now, why am I saying this to you? Because this was 2009 when they finally went in with cameras and equipment. We are in 2023. You think we discovered everything on Earth? We don't know a lot about our Earth. We don't know a lot about what's going on. There's a lot of places we don't know. And it could be that one of these cities of LUZ is within some of these type of places, even within the land of Israel. You have to remember, they keep on digging deeper and deeper in Israel, and they're finding more and more archaeological finds under there. Listen, if they didn't find anything, they would not keep digging. Why didn't they keep going? They keep going because they're finding things of nature. So we don't know where the city is, but it's there. Now, there's also another thing that's called the LUZ. What is that? It's called the etzem, the bone of the LUZ, and that's located in the back. Over here, right here. It's that little piece that comes by the spine that sticks up. Now, what does that have to do with the city? And what does this have to do with anything? Let's take a look here. Beperush Rabbi Eliezer Megarmiza. It's brought down HaTorah on his Perush. Katav devarim niflaim beinyan etzem haluz. It says unbelievable things about this little bone that's in the spine. Betochen devarav hu sheyesh etzem be'adam hanikrat LUZ. There is a bone that's called the LUZ. She itzumo v'ikaro v'shosho shel adam. That is the form and the main part of the human being. Meaning, without this LUZ, the body breaks apart right away. Umimena nithava ha'adam me'etzem hatipa. And that's when man goes with the woman, that little drop of sperm, that first one, develops that little etzem, the LUZ, that little piece, from the first drop. V'kasher yamut ha'adam, and when the person dies, ha'etzem hahi ena nimucha ve'ena nifchatat. It never will get deteriorated. That stone, even if a body deteriorates and decomposes, that one will always stay. As a side note, even the Germans had a problem with that bone because when they burned the bodies, that bone was not easily burned. It had to actually be broken. And so it's very interesting. You put it in the fire, it will not burn. The rest of the bones will. That one will not. And if you put it in a grinder, it will not grind. It's very difficult. And if you take a hammer, it does not break. It has a very strong hold. He has a note on the bottom. Let's see here. He asked him, how is God going to do Tehiyat HaMetim at the end of time? What? Because most of the bodies decomposed already. From the LUZ, he's going to redevelop the body. He goes, how do you know that? Because I'll tell you. He said, bring me a LUZ of a person. They brought him. He said, try to grind it. Couldn't grind it. He said, try to burn it. They couldn't burn it. He said, leave it in water. Let's see if it deteriorates in water. Didn't deteriorate. Maybe they put it in sea, in like a salt water, ocean. Didn't deteriorate from the salt. They started breaking with a hammer. The hammer broke, and it didn't break apart. So I don't know if this is true today. It'd be interesting if it is. I don't know if anyone tried this out, but I do know about the Germans that they did have a problem with one of the bones of the body that they were trying to burn. This bone will stay around forever. And from there, that's how God's going to resurrect the dead. And that bone is what gets the reward and the punishment after the person dies. Let's see what he says. And he says here that the etzem of the LUZ of Yaakov, he changed the name from LUZ to Bet El. I'm not sure what the background of that means, but let's take a look at the bottom what he says here. Nun Daled. Rabbeinu Bachya katav shitachen lomar ki ba hakatuv lermoz lanu b'shem hazeh ki mizeh התחיל העולם להשתכלל ולהתחדש והנה הוא ראשית הבריאה והחידוש ואם כן גלה לנו כי שם העיר הראשונה LUZ. So he says the first name of the city was LUZ. Then they changed it to מלשון LUZ hashidra. It was called LUZ because it's the LUZ of the shidra. Shidra is the spine. So it's called the LUZ, the bone of the spine. שממנה עתיד להתנער ולהתחדש ולהבריא ולהתברא לתחיית המתים. From there, the resurrection of the dead is going to come. כי כשם שפלא החידוש הזה היה משם, כך פלא של תחיית המתים יתחיל משם. He goes, just like this stone is like a wondrous, not stone, this bone is like a wondrous bone, so too, resurrection of the dead is wondrous. No, I'll tell you that someone that died 500 years ago is going to come back to living. How does that make any sense? He goes, just like a bone like this is it can't burn, can't do everything. Now, by the way, it could be a very small part of the bone, and maybe not all of it. Again, we have to identify where it is. Let's take a look what he says. Habet Yosef, that's Rabbi Yosef Karo. In Orah Hayim Siman Shin, Umuva Betaz Sham Sif Katan Aleph, Hevi Mishibule Haleket. He brings down Siman Kuf Lamed B'Shem Sidurim. So he calls the name Nischa or Niska. And let's see if he had what he says here. He says Bezoar Kadosh Mevi B'Midash Ne'elam She'eshem Ze Nikra Betuel Rama'a. There's another name called Betuel Rama'a. V'Ze Lashon Hazor Kadosh Rav Huna Amar V'Ana Havet B'Karche Hayam V'Shmana Tehavu Kar'an Le'ahu Garman De'Shidra Yahu De'Ishta'ar B'Kivra Mikol Gufa Betuel Rama'a. שאלת עליה אמנו דהוא קרישה דחביה דמיה דאיהו רמאה והוא גרמה הוא רמאה בכל שאר גרמי דטענה אמר רבי שמעון ההוא גרמה למה השתער בקיומה יציל מכל שאר גרמי משום דאיהו רמאה וליט סביל טעמה דמזונה דמני נשה שאר גרמי בגני כך הוא תקיף מכל גרמי והוא להווה עקרה דגופה עטבנה מיני הדהוא דכתיב בת בתואל הארמי. And that's why it's called Bat Betuel Ha'arami. Beta'ana Amar Rabbi Shimon Hu Aramai Umelam Ramai. V'sheken Yetzehara De'ihu Ramai Hadahu Dechtiv Bat Betuel Ha'arami Garma Rama'a. He's saying here that it's also called Betuel Rama'a. Why would you call it Betuel Rama'a? Betuel was the father of Rivka and Lavan. He was a person that cheated. So why do they call that bone as another name Betuel Ramah? To tell you, just like Betuel was a Ramai, he was a cheat and a trickster, and that's 100% nothing to talk about. So too, that bone is 100% not going to be destroyed. It's an interesting thing they brought down. And this bone can only have sustenance from food that you eat on Motzei Shabbat. That's after Shabbat, from the time of Set until Hatzot. That's the time frame. Ubehagaot Morenu Harav Rabbi Avraham Azulai Al Halevush Hevi Deot Acherot Me'ezo Achila Nenet Etzem LUZ. He goes, no, there's other opinions about how this bone gets sustenance. Only from the food that you eat on Shabbat. And some say from the yayin of Havdalah. So you have three opinions. You have one that says from Melave Malka, what you eat. And over here it says any food. It doesn't say anything specific. Any type of food, that's where you get it. The other one says from Sudah Shabbat. The other one says the wine of Havdalah. You should know Rav Chaim Kanievsky was very, very strict on telling people to use wine for Havdalah. Let's say a guy drinks grape juice, he doesn't like to drink wine. Try to find a cup that's 3 ounces, not a big cup, and make sure to use wine for Havdalah for that portion. It's just interesting to note. As opposed to grape juice. Because let's say a guy uses grape juice for Friday night, grape juice for Shabbat morning. Okay, you want to use for grape juice, fine. But for the LUZ bone, you want to get that opinion covered, use wine, and don't take a big cup. Don't take one of these big cups and fill it with wine. Get a 3 ounce cup, or it's fine. 3 ounces is kasher. I have a cup that's about 3.5 ounces. That's what I use for Shabbat. Why? Because after drinking wine and grape juice constantly, I just got the right portion. That's what you need to drink. If I want to drink more wine, I'll drink it during the meal. I don't have to drink it. I don't have to have a big cup because then you have to drink rav kos, 3 ounces, the whole thing. ועל פי הדברים הנ"ל, שעצם הלוז אינה נהנית כי אם מאכילת מוצאי שבת. Now another opinion says it's only from the food you eat on מוצאי שבת. כתב באליה רבה שלכן עצם זו אינה נפסדת. That's why that stone never is lost. Why? כיוון דאם האדם הראשון אכל מעץ הדעת בערב שבת. That when did Adam HaRishon eat from the Etz HaDa'at? God created him on Friday. When did he finally eat? Just a few hours later, he ate from the tree. And all of his body got sustenance from eating from the Etz HaDa'at. That could have been his first meal, maybe. That's why all parts of the body have a form of death. Adam HaRishon, when he ate from the Etz HaDa'at, what was one of the punishments? That he's going to die. Prior to that, he wasn't going to die. He's going to live forever. So what got punished? His body. Why? Because his body ate and had enjoyment and sustenance from what he ate from. And you're going to go back to the dirt. That's why the LUZ didn't have a problem and stays around forever. Why? Because that bone only has sustenance when? On the food you eat on Motzei Shabbat. If you eat food during the 6 days of the week, it's not going to help that bone lose at all. So when Adam HaRishon ate, the whole body got sustenance except for what? The LUZ. Because the LUZ only gets sustenance from food during that time frame. So therefore it didn't get punished. And that's why from that bone, the entire body is going to be resurrected into Chayat HaMetim. It didn't enjoy from it. So that bone never got punished. That's why. And that's why it lasts forever. Very interesting. What about the opinions that say that he enjoys from Shabbat and from Yain and Havdalah? And so for those, they say that bone didn't have sustenance in that time. But if you look at the other opinion from Motzei Shabbat, it fits really nicely that's why we do that. ובספר בית ישראל השלם, על קיצור שולחן ערוך, הביא דבר פלא נפלא בשם ספרים. He brings something interesting. שצריך להשכים 2 שעות קודם זמן התפילה. That you're supposed to wake up 2 hours from the time that you're going to pray in the morning. So if you're going to pray at 7:45, like we do here, you should wake up at 5:45 in the morning. מפני שעצם הלוז ממשיכה לישון עוד 2 שעות לאחר שהקיצו כל האבנים. That bone stays asleep for 2 hours after you wake up. So in order to wake up the bone, you got to wake up 2 hours earlier. Otherwise, you're praying and you're not praying with all of your ivadim. That's one of the reasons why you're not allowed to pray. Why can't you pray when you have to go to the bathroom? What's the big deal? And I know that people have to go to the bathroom when they pray because I'm in shul and I see people finish the Amidah and they go run to the bathroom. That means sometimes people doesn't want to take off their tefillin. They don't want to go through, I got to take off my tefillin, I got to go in, come back, I got to wash my hands, the whole thing. I don't want to do it. Oh, you know what? Let me pray and go. It's a big problem. Why is it a problem? Because when you pray to God, you have to pray with all of your physical attributes. And what you're doing, let's say you got to go number 1. Okay, you got to go number 1. The guy's holding it in. So what is he doing? He's praying, but he's not praying with that. It's not only distracted. That organ in the body is not properly praying to God. It's occupied with holding itself in so that he doesn't make a mess. And so that bone, that Ivid is not. Now the bone, the LUZ, is the same way. It needs 2 hours to wake up. And so if you want to have that bone pray to God in a proper prayer with all of your ivadim, then it works. Yeah, I mean, that's an Ariel, you're great, I love you. But what about Shacharit? Okay. And someone wants to pray with all of his body parts. Like it says in Tehillim and Lamed Het Dash Yud, Kal atzmotai tomarna. All of my atzamot pray to you. If a guy has to go to the bathroom, it's not all of his atzamot. If he wakes up and doesn't have 2 hours, it's not going to pray. You got to wake up 2 hours before on the tefillah. Very interesting thing on it. Very, very interesting. That's why it's brought down if a person has to go to the bathroom number 2 in the morning and he holds it in, his prayer is not even counted, his Amidah at all. So what should he do? He should do whatever he has to go to the bathroom early in the morning, empty himself out, and if a person does it, it says as if he built the Mizbeach and he brought a korban on the Mizbeach. Because what is he doing? He's coming to God really. Listen, I know from myself that when a person has to go to the bathroom, you're not focused. You're not focused, and you're preoccupied. And you know what's funny? Back in the day, it was much harder to go to the bathroom. Today, it's much easier. Today, literally, the bathroom is 6 feet away here. You know, back in the day, guys go to the bathroom. You know what it was? You had to put on his shoes, his boots. You got if it's cold, winter, you got to put on jacket, all this stuff. Go out to the outhouse. Sometimes you have to take a shovel with him. Sometimes there was no lights. It was a whole struggle. So today, who's the fool? You literally got to walk for 6 feet to go there, and you want to hold it in. Back in the day, they wouldn't pray that way. Now, why is this also important? Because a lot of times people wonder why are the tefillot not getting answered. The guy's wondering, I'm praying, I don't feel anything, I don't feel like I'm getting answered. Because there's rules and regulations with prayers to make it work. There's a lot of rules. One of them is you need your full body parts in order to fully go into the tefillah. And it's very, very important that a person should check himself going to the bathroom before he prays. If there's anything you took from tonight's class, it's that. Take on that special thing. And even if you're going to pray b'yachid, better to pray b'yachid when you went and you relieved yourselves than not. Let's continue. We have a little bit more on it. So where is the exact location of the bone? Let's take a look. Odot mikoma hameduyak shel etzem haluz beguf ha'adam nechleku bazeh mefarshim. Like everything else in our religion, there's an argument and mahloket. Of course. Why wouldn't there be? Yesh omrim she'etzem zon nimset bekatzeh tachton shel amud hashidra. Some say it's at the bottom of the spine, that bottom bone. Some say no, it's in the kesher of the tefillin, here. Some say the bottom of the shidra, some say here. Let's take a look what he says. Ken hidat ha'arizal. That is the opinion of the Arizal, that the LUZ is not the bottom or in the spine, but rather where the tefillin is. בספרו ליקוטי תורה, in פרשת שופטים, וכן הוא דעת רבי אברהם אזולאי, also רבי אברהם אזולאי, בספרו אור החמה. So interesting, there's a whole argument on it. And so we see from here unbelievable insights from both the city of LUZ, which nobody ever died in, and then you have the bone of the LUZ, which stayed and never got destroyed no matter what. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen v'Amen.